If you're thinking of becoming a professional audio engineer and making it your bread and butter, here are 5 things that you should consider before you take the plunge. I've been doing mixing and mastering professionally since 2015, and over the years I've learned a lot doing this to pay the bills. Spoiler alert, it's not all fun and games. These are the things I wish I had known before I started, so I hope this video will help prepare you for this wonderful journey. The first thing, and the most important thing you should know in my opinion, is that just because you enjoy mixing for yourself, your bands, or your friends, doesn't mean you'll enjoy mixing for clients. This is because when you're mixing for clients, you really are mixing for them. The big difference between that and mixing for yourself is that you're no longer in complete control with the artistic direction of the mix. Money is now on the table, and you need to do everything you can to make your clients happy. At the end of the day, whatever the band says goes, because the most important thing when you're the mixing engineer for an artist boils down to bringing the artist's vision to reality. That's it. That's the bottom line, and you can throw your artistic preferences out the window. A lot of people don't fully get this, but just imagine how different it would be to be a musician who primarily writes and releases their own music, and one who writes pieces for commercial ads, TV, games, and so on. It's a completely different ballgame and requires very different mindset and approaches. Even in the cases where the band tells you that you have free reign to create a sound for them, they don't always mean that, which is totally okay because sometimes you just don't know you actually have a preference until you hear that first version of the mix. There were many times where I believed what the artist wanted for their mix actually made it sound worse, but I had to comply with their request simply because I was mixing their music for them. It's not a great feeling, but it's part of being a professional. When I first started, this was something that really annoyed me because it's like I was deliberately destroying a perfect mix. It honestly still bothers me now after this many years, and it's a major reason why I've diversified my income sources so I can choose to only work with bands whose music I really like. So if you're someone who's very picky and particular about how things should sound in your mixes, this is something you should really consider before making the jump to do mixing to pay the bills. You don't want to end up ruining your love for mixing. If you like this video so far, be sure to give it a like and click the subscribe button. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and I would really appreciate it. The second thing you should know is that client service is a big part of being a professional audio engineer, and good customer service and communication skills are key here. For example, when you receive a quote request from a prospective artist, you need to know what questions to ask to figure out what exactly they're looking for, what they expect from you, and whether you can provide what they're looking for. Because if you're not clear on these things, you're just setting yourself up for failure. You might think, everybody has communication skills. What are you talking about? But actually, good communication skills or being able to communicate effectively and clearly requires training and experience. So if you want to become a professional audio engineer and don't already have training and or experience in communication, you should consider taking a course or two on websites like LinkedIn Learning to get yourself up to speed on professional communication. Good customer service means that you'll need to always put your client's interests first as well. For every interaction with your clients and every decision you make to your business, you will constantly need to keep your client's interests as a top priority. You need to be okay with making compromises on your end if it means better service and or better rates for your clients. Take my studio as an example. My goal has always been to provide pro-level mixes to up-and-coming bands and independent artists without breaking their bank. In order to offer affordable rates but still be able to pay my bills, I always try my best to keep my business overhead as low as possible. This is why my studio setup is so minimalist and why I don't buy outboard gear. They just really give you terrible return on investment. I also don't buy new plugins unless I can clearly articulate exactly what gaps the plugin will address in my workflow. The third thing you should know is that when you're at the level beyond just charging money for mixing here and there, and you're actually doing it to pay the bills, you'll be spending a good chunk of your time on non-audio production tasks, like administration, project management, file management, communication, and outreach. Don't underestimate these tasks because they really can be a time sucker. Administrative stuff alone is already a big one. For example, you have to organize all your invoices and expenses, manage the finances of your business, like creating an income statement and cash flow statement at the end of the month, and prepare for tax seasons. Whenever the band sends you multi-tracks for mixing, you also need to take the time to go through them to make sure everything is there and is labeled properly. Whenever you receive a quote request, you also need to take the time to talk to the artist and figure out what they're looking for. Basically, if you want to do this professionally, you need to be okay with dealing with all these non-audio tasks. Not everybody is, and that's totally okay. Personally, I'm really bad at keeping up with admin tasks, and it's something I constantly struggle with. I just want to make music, man. Is that so much to ask? The fourth thing is that you don't get to keep all the money you earn. Many professional audio engineers are self-employed. This means that you'll need to put away money every month for your pension, insurances, healthcare, business overhead, among many other things. You also need to set aside money for income tax, and the amount can vary depending on where you live and how much you make, but usually it's a pretty significant amount. On the topic of taxes, you might have to hire an accountant to do your taxes every year, and that's another expense you have to swallow. When it comes to the money you save for retirement, you also need to think about how to invest it in a responsible way so you're protected against inflation, but also don't lose your funds to the volatility of the stock market, or Bitcoin, I guess. None of these things are related to music production, and you might find it extremely unpleasant to deal with year after year. I was recently hired by a local university to do video production and became part of a trade union. They now handle all my insurances and pension stuff for plus a lot of extra benefits, and I can't tell you how much of a relief it is to not have to worry about this stuff myself. The last thing I want to mention here is that unless you're super lucky or get to do the recording part, the multi-tracks bands send you can often be rather lacking in quality or performance, or both. A lot of musicians have limited knowledge in the audio engineering side of things, which is totally understandable as it's a totally different skill set. They might not understand why you should use a fresh pack of strings for guitars and bass when you're recording a metal record. They might not know how important it is to make sure the double-track rhythm guitar takes should be in sync with each other. They might not know that the way you pick the guitar strings actually has a huge impact in the guitar tone. Just to list a few examples. I've encountered a few cases where the guitarist plugged the guitar into the line input of the audio interface instead of the instrument input, and so the DI files were really hard to work with, to say the least. Additionally, not all musicians have the budget to buy a high-quality audio interface to get their guitar intonated or to buy new strings. The point is that unless you are heavily involved in the recording process, you'll never know what kind of multi-track quality you'll get. I hope these things are helpful for you. I have a lot more to share, but I wasn't sure if you guys would be into this kind of content, so be sure to let me know in the comments and give this video a like if you want to see more of this. Happy mixing, and I'll see you next time.